Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy, Meteor Kaiser here, back again with another challenge video. On today's video, we're going to be finishing off our little Radiant Dawn challenge run with part 3. Well, it's part 3 of ours, it's part 4 of the game, but semantics. Last time, we got through part 3, which dealt with all the Grail mercenary stuff, and in this part, we're going to see if we can make our way through the end of part 4 into the very end of the game. So again, just a reminder, this is a no EXP or skills run. So it's honestly pretty simple stuff. It's self-explanatory for the most part. Just no using bonus experience or adding any extra skills onto units. And guys, if you haven't done so already, if you would love to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, it'd be really appreciated. It really does help me out. I am trying to do my best to grow this as big as I can. So any amount of help that I can get from you guys, it will be great. Thank you so much and enjoy the video. So part 4 is pretty interesting. It basically, for the first, from Prologue to Chapter 5, we are splitting up all of our units into 3 specific armies. That is the Silver Army, run by Micaiah, Grail Army, run by Ike, and the Hawk Army, run by Tabarn. As you can see on screen here, there are certain units that have a little gold or like greenish tint on the edge. Those are characters that are forced to be in said army, but everyone else you can move around as you need to. So for example, for the Silver Army, you are forced to have Micaiah, Soph, Leanne, Skrimir, Sigrun in that group. Everyone else like Tanith, Naelucci, Nolan, Mordecai, Fiona, all of those guys are not forced. So you can swap between whatever army you want to. This is going to affect who's going to be in what team for the next couple of chapters, so it's important to sort of figure out who you want where. Now the Silver Army is our weakest army by far. Silver Army is the weakest, then the Hawk Army, and the Grail Army is our strongest. So I'm going to be taking units from the Grail Army and spreading them out to the other 2 parties, mainly to the Silver Army. Because obviously we have all of these worthless Dawn Brigade members, I'm going to be giving the Silver Army Har, Danved, and Boyd. Har is obviously a really good unit, so Danved was kind of not really necessary in the Hawk Army too much, and he's relatively decent, and Boyd is pretty decent himself. I wanted to keep most of my strong units in the Grail Army, just in case, but I didn't have too many. I also gave the Hawk Army a better healer in Reese, because Valencia is a healer for their group, but I want to be using Valencia more offensively than defensively, to be honest. So Reese wasn't really necessary in the Grail Army because I've already got Mist, so I wanted to spread out my healers a bit. But besides that, I didn't really make too many changes to each army. Once we've gotten our parties all set out, we'll begin Prologue Chaos named. Now the reason I wasn't too worried about bringing super strong units into our little Silver Armies group is because we get an extra unit this chapter in Nicella. He is the King of the Ravens, and he is our broken unit. He's better than Skrimir. So our objective for this chapter is to rout, so that means we're going to have to dealing with every single enemy on this chapter. And it's a little difficult, not gonna lie. So my overarching strategy for this is I basically send Nicella to the right of the 2 areas that we're basically quote-unquote defending, and I'm gonna have Nicella deal with literally everything on the right side. There are a couple of crossbowmen which are scary, but I take the risk and just have Nicella deal with them, and thankfully that works out pretty well. To defend the bridge of the north, I have Har and Boyd pretty much take that route, much like they did in that previous defense chapter in part 3. Everyone else is basically here to do chip damage, even like Skrimir. Skrimir is good, but he isn't a royal technically, so he has to change back, and he only has 1 range, whereas Har and Boyd both have 2 range. I'll also use Micaiah to do some picking, and I'll have units like Saniki who's joined us. Oh yeah, I probably should have mentioned that Soniki's in this as well, so we got her, which is pretty cool. Sonic is good offensively, but very fragile, so I wouldn't recommend using her that much. But I leave her on the right side to help clear up any remaining enemies, with Sigrun and Tanith floating. It's a pain in the ass, but I basically am able to use Nicella and a bit of Skrimir with Har and Boyd, those 4 units specifically, to clear out this chapter, and we move on to 4-1 Road to the Empire. This is going to be alternating, so now that we've done the Silver Army one, we're going to be going into the Grail Army one. And this is where we don't have to worry. Well, I say that, but This gave me more problems than I thought it was going to. This is a defense chapter, which we have to defend the base camp. The harder the difficulty, the less units you're allowed to bring, but that doesn't really matter for us because we're kind of low on units anyway. But basically the whole concept of this chapter is the enemies have to break through our sandbag barriers, which can be destroyed. So technically they can enter in through wherever they want. So I split up my units. I send Oscar, Gatry, and Soren to the right side. I send Mia, Shinon, and Ike down to the south. And then I have Titania and Nyla floating more towards the left side, but clearing up wherever they can because they're quite agile. Really more midway through the chapter, I switch up my strategy a bit and I end up sending Shinon up north, well, to the left path, I would say. And I leave Titania down south with Mia. Jill is picking off units on the left side. Decently well, actually. She's honestly not that good, but she's been helpful. I really wish I would have trained her more, but it is a shame. I mean, I could have trained her more if I had bonus experience, but kinda can't. So maybe I should have thought about that, because she's really good once you give her some levels, but it takes a while for her to get levels. So that was my faux pas here. I use Raphael in the back to dance wherever I can, and I very slowly make my way through the chapter. I end up using Nyla a lot to push through the fog of war bits to deal with all of those annoying enemies. Typical me, I use Shinon as a tank again, which really doesn't make sense, but... And there was this one part where I got terrified because I sent Jill into 3 enemies, but I was able to live it somehow. I don't know how. I think everyone went for Shinon with his Oklahoma. I named his bow Oklahoma. Don't ask why. Volug is basically useless here, but I'll use him a bit just to help defend. And he can take a hit or two, so he has his uses. Mia is also very useful here, so don't feel afraid to use all of your units, because all of them can take more of a beating than you think they can. Anyway, we're done with that chapter, and now we move on to 4-2 Silent World. Silent World is our Hawk Army, aka let's just use Tabarn for everything. Nah, I'm kidding, but not really. So this chapter it looks complicated, but it's actually pretty linear. This chapter has 2 paths that you can take. There is a left path or a south path. I sent Tabarn to the left path because I'm just like, alright, whatever. Experience is nice, but I don't necessarily need it because I'm not going to be using all of these units, and you'll figure out why in a few chapters, but I'll get to that. There's no point in me bringing literally everyone along in the middle, so I was like, alright, let's just clear it out with Tabarn. Then I go ahead and bring everyone else down south. So because I have I didn't spread my units out that much, and I basically brought everyone out. A lot of these units that I've got, like Khalil, Reese, Kieran, Ulki, Janaf, all of those guys are not amazing, but they're decent. So I wouldn't really recommend leaving them too much on their own to try and take down enemies. However, if you have all of your guys in one group, you should be okay. Valencia is pretty mean as well. The only thing I keep forgetting to mention with Valencia is her mercy skill. So she can't kill enemies because she'll always leave them at 1 HP. But she basically has a brave sword for an attack, so it's pretty nice. She's still pretty decent. Not amazing, but decent. Of course, I have Nephany here doing a decent chunk over here. And in this chapter, I end up promoting her to her 3rd tier, becoming the sentinel she always knew she could be. But anyway, I leave literally all of my entire army to deal with the enemy reinforcements from the south, and I send Tabarn and Nephany in on the boss, defeat Feldholm, and move on to 4-3 Distortions. I keep forgetting to mention that I've defeated each boss, but whatever. At least I'm not getting the chapters wrong, nor did I mess up the recording. Oh, Distortions. This is another awful chapter. Okay, we're back with the Silver Army. And it's our Desert Chapter. This chapter absolutely sucked. Again, what you want to do for this chapter is use Nicella to basically do all of your work for you. But even he is not completely defenseless. There is a lot of strong enemies in this chapter. There's also enemies that have a sleep and a silence staff, which is not very fun. Because if it hits one of your good units like Har, they're out of commission for 5 turns. And 5 turns is a lot in a Fire Emblem game. That can make or break your run, essentially. So I want to be using a bit more than just my boy over here. My boy, of course, being Nicella. So I end up using Skrimir a lot. But man, this chapter took me like a couple of hours, I want to say. Yeah, it took me at least 2 hours to beat this chapter. The winning strategy in the end was to send Nicella down to the south immediately, deal with a few of those enemies, then retreat. have him float around the middle, deal with the middle enemies, while I send the rest of my army around straight to the right and then downwards, making sure to keep myself out of these mages range at where the boss Numida is at. The only ones I want to send down there are people that have strong resistance. Even Sonic is pretty good down here, but Sonic will get one shot by any of the other units. So just focus on enemies' ranges. Make sure you're checking ranges as much as you can. The cool thing is, around, I want to say like 5 turns into this, we have the Black Knight assisting us. The Black Knight is going to basically deal with all of the enemies in the middle by himself. So that means Nisala will get a break and he'll be able to assist continuing to take care of the enemies in the lower left-hand side of the map. There will be enemy reinforcements coming from the north. So I leave a couple of my decent units like Nolan, Boyd, and Danved. It's so confusing to remember his name in this game. But I leave them sort of up north. And they're able to take care of just a few enemy reinforcements. Boyd pretty much doing most of the work. I bring everyone else into the boss, let the Black Knight deal with any other enemies, and we're basically done with the chapter. But the one thing to mention before we end the chapter is you can actually recruit Stefan in this game. So what you need to do is you need to move the left Mordecai, one of those two, or Micaiah, which is the one that I use because I'm not using Leth or Mordecai, into the spot 1 left and 11 up from the most bottom right tile. So basically, bottom right tile, right? Go to the left once, go up 11. Just count that tile, move Micaiah there, and you'll get Stefan. He comes with a Vogue Kadi. He himself isn't a great unit, but give that to Mia later on and you'll be chilling. Anyway, after defeating Numida, we move on to Revelations, which is 4-4. This was another 3-hour chapter. Oh my lord. Revelations is where we have to deal with Oliver. And you can actually recruit Oliver, but you have to move Raphael in range of Oliver, and it is not worth the effort. So this is an indoors chapter where you basically need to move up towards the top of the map, sort of like the last chapter of part 1. In this chapter, you get access to a few extra units, which is nice. You get Tormod, Vika, and Muruim. The only good one out of the 3 of them is Muruim. Tormod's alright, but Vika is awful. I basically bomb rush the enemies on the left ledge with Nyla immediately. Basically, part 4 is, hey, we've got royals now. That's what part 4 is. It's so bad, but it's true. Imagine playing this game without royals. Couldn't be me. Anyway, I send Gatry, Soren, and Nyla up to the top left to clear out that little area. Then I immediately converge on the middle, and I can't send my horsemen up a ledge, obviously, because I've got on horses, so I have to send them around. But it took me a while to figure out a good strategy to use, so the winning one ended up being sending Mia over to help, because there's some enemy reinforcements that come from the right stairwell, so having Mia over there does help quite a bit at clearing out a few of those enemies. There's only so much that Oscar and Titania can do by themselves. Now, once you get to the stairwell in the middle, you have a little bit of a problem to deal with. There's a sleep staff user, and it'll put your units to sleep, and your units do not have very good resistance. Ike has awful resistance, Gatry has awful resistance, Nyla has pretty decent resistance, so I end up having to deal with Ike and Gatry getting put to sleep, which is very, very annoying. But I end up moving some of my other units, like once Titania has done clearing out the right side, I push her up to help deal with the units that are attacking our sleeping boys, and also Nyla is pretty useful there. Now the ones that will be encroaching on the boss room Oliver are going to be pretty much just Ike and Mist. Titania is there as well as backup, but I'm pretty much doing everything with Ike and Mist here. This is a route enemy chapter, so it's annoying as hell. So once I'm done clearing out Oliver with Ike, I send him and everyone back down to the ledges to deal with all of the enemy reinforcements. Now the cool thing is enemies can't climb up ledges, and these AI are too stupid to go around the stairway. So it's honestly really easy picking, it's just time consuming. So it's a good opportunity to get some experience for some units that need it, like Soren, Jill, Tormod if you want to use him. I don't know why you would, but he's got range. And then of course Shinon. I also leave Mia just in case any enemy wants to sneak around, but for the most part, this chapter is just really long, and if you mess up, oh, you're gonna have to reset, and it takes a long time. 3 hours. Awful. Anyway, we're able to move on to Unforgivable Sin, which is 4-5, the last Hawk Army chapter. Immediately as we start, we get Jeffrey back, which is very nice, and I immediately proceed to promote him into his 3rd tier, just to help me out with this chapter. We also get access to both Bastion and Volk if you pay for Volk, and I'm like, oh, whatever, I might as well. And he ends up being pretty useful. He can take down a few of these enemy Lagoos by himself without too much problem. Now, the biggest issue of this entire map are going to be the red dragons that pop up. These red dragons are, yeah, just like before, the red dragons are really scary. Tabarn can deal with the regular feral enemies like the hawks and the cat Lagoos pretty easily, but the red dragons do give him a sprout of difficulty. Also, Izuka is an annoying little bitch. Izuka's gimmick is anytime you get near him, he will teleport away onto a different island, summon a bunch more Lagoos, and rinse and repeat the process until you eventually catch him. Now, basically what you have to do is hope and pray that you get lucky. Hope that he teleports to an island that you have units on. Because if you do, Izuka himself is not that big of a problem to deal with. He has a lot of HP, but so does every boss at this stage. And I'm able to defeat him with like Jeffrey, Nephany, and Torneo. And now we get to move on to the end game. We are on Rebirth 1. But before we get into Rebirth 1, every single army has converged on the Ashara Tower. So we have all of our units together. The problem is we may only bring 10 units into the tower. So we have to think long and hard about who we want to bring. We also get access to basically all of the Lagoos Royals. So this includes Gifka, Karthnaga, and Enna, though, I mean, they aren't all royals, but you know what I mean. So basically, at the start of this chapter, we also get access to Renning, Gifka, Enna, and Karthnaga, who are pretty damn useful, but you still have to pick if you want to bring Gifka or not. The other ones can join automatically, though. So I spend a lot of time forging whatever I can, using up all of my items, because you're not going to need anything later. So I just give whatever I have to my units, spread the love a little bit, promote who I need to, and I'm able to make my selections. So the ones that are forced are Micaiah, Soth, Sanaki, and Ike. Everyone else, I believe, is optional. So I ended up bringing with me Gaytree, Naesala, Har, Shinon, Nyla, Mia, Renning, Valencia, Enna, Karthnaga, Tabarn, and Nephany. I didn't bring all of the Lagoos Royals with me, just because I just wanted Nephany. If not, I was going to pick like Gifka or bring Karthnaga with me, but I decided to just bring the other 3, because they did kind of carry us through the other chapters for part 4. So anyway, we get Karthnaga and Enna. Enna is decent. They are both dragons. Enna is decent. Karthnaga is really weak, but very defensive. So if you want to level him up, this is the only place to do it, of course. It's really not that smart of an idea. It's kind of like the Nino strategy. I don't think it's worth it, but hey, you do you. Anyway, so this tower is sort of broken up into different chapters named the same thing, right? We have Rebirth 1 through 5, I believe. So this is 4 Endgame 1, so 4E1. This is Rebirth 1, where the bosses are Lakain and Hatzel, 2 of the leaders of the Senate. A lot of these chapters are pretty simple layout-wise, but they are kind of complicated. It's weird how that makes any sense. Basically, Lakain is pretty annoying to deal with. First of all, let's just talk about Hatzel though. Hatzel's easy, because Hatzel cannot attack. He does have a sleep and a silence staff though. So if you're gonna go attack him, bring a few units along, you know? Don't just go in there with 1 unit. Lakain has a pretty annoying attack where he can silence every single unit at once. So it'd be a smart idea to bring restore staves, but I'm not smart, so. He also has the SS ranked light magic Rexora and a rewarp staff that will let him teleport if he's in danger. So long story short, you just gotta hope that not every good member gets silenced. And I split up my royals as a smart man should. And basically my hunter dog for this chapter is Naesala. He will hunt after that Lakain, and I will use the rest of my units to sort of deal with the rest of the enemy reinforcements coming from the north side. Tabarn is the big boy for the reinforcements, and then Nyla will be dealing with the right side. Every other unit that I have is just helping, essentially. Ike, Har, everyone else is just the royals bitches. Anyway, with that said and done, we're going to be moving on to E2 Rebirth 2. There's a couple of bosses for this chapter. It is the Black Knight, and then Leviel, who is one of the generals of Benyon. The map is split into 2, so it's reminiscent of Path of Radiance, where it's an Ike and Black Knight 1v1. every other unit will be dealing with the enemies on the south, which is like a crap ton. So this was probably the hardest one for me. The Ike fight wasn't too difficult. Basically, what you want to do is you want to be standing on those cover tiles as Ike and let the Black Knight attack you. Make sure you have an elixir or two on hand, just in case. And he won't be able to one-shot you. He'll do more damage than you will deal to him, but you have more healing opportunities than he does. Just take it slow with that. That's not the problem. The problem is all of these damn enemies. So your units all spawn on this diamond looking shape, right? That's a cover area. What you want to do is you want to keep all of your frail units in that cover area and then bring the ones that you can trust to actually kill enemies out. Har will deal with the right side enemies. Renning and Gatry will deal with the left side enemies. Then I have like Mia, who's dodge tanky, Tabarn, Nisala, and Nyla, all of my royals dealing with the enemies in the south. Even with the bowman, it's still pretty scary. But if you leave your guys on as many cover tiles as you can get on, those will give you 10% defense, or they'll give you 10 extra defense. You just have to hope that your special skills proc a lot, like Har's Stun and Nephane's Wrath, you know, that type of stuff. Shinon is doing what Shinon does best, and just tanking. Even crits do like 5 or 6 damage to him. It's insane. So anyway, it is a very, very difficult chapter, I will admit. The chances of you, if you get attacked by one of these bow guys and they just happen to hit you, that's it, you're done. Your Naysala and your T-Barn cannot defend against bowmen, which is, it's a really risky strategy to be letting them up against archers, but I don't have that much of an option, you know? I could have sent them to the sides and then sent Gatry down south, but Gatry's movement is not far enough to be able to get there in one turn to defend from the other units coming up north. Oh, that was a mouthful. Anyway, after enough time, effort, and perseverance, I'm able to clear out that chapter, defeat both Lavale and the Black Knight, and move on to Rebirth 3, E3. This chapter looks scary, but it's honestly not as bad as the last one was. This one we have to deal with all of the defending dragons. So the boss in this one will be Digningsie. I can't pronounce his name very well, but he's the king of the dragons. You'll also be able to get 2 units if you don't kill them in this chapter. You'll get Nasir and Gareth. You just have to make sure you don't kill them. The only objective of this chapter is to defeat the boss, so you know what that means. I'm not gonna be dealing with a lot of these enemies. All right, I should probably differentiate between the types of dragons. So now we have white dragons and red dragons. Red dragons are physically defensive, white dragons are magically defensive. So use that information as you will. Basically, my strategy for this was to use whatever units I can to clear out the path towards the boss, who I cannot pronounce his name, and then I will basically use my royals to deal with the boss himself. It's a very scary fight because he is very, very strong and he has 100 HP. And I try a myriad of different strategies. I basically try and one-turn this if I can. I end up taking a slower strategy the next time and I defeat him in about 5 turns. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention is I do have my Heron. Why did I not remember to talk about my Heron? I picked Rayson because Rayson's the best one. Yeah, so for example, I was trying to defeat the boss and he one-shot Naysala, so it was not worth it. So it is a just an awful situation to be in. I try all different types of strategies to get there in a few turns, clear out all of the enemies, and have my royals deal with him. In the end, what worked was having Tabarn and Naysala attacking once, retreating because they have Kanto, coming back to get reinvigorated by Rayson, along with Valencia, so Valencia can heal if necessary. And then just hoping and praying that his skill Ire doesn't fuck me over too hard, because Ire, if that procs, will kill anything regardless. But I ended up defeating him with Nyla pretty easily. It wasn't too terrible. Having Nihil on me was pretty nice. Thank God we're able to move on to Rebirth 4 now. E4. Alright, this is the second to last chapter in which we have to defeat a secret boss. Sephiram. So since we got Nasir and Gareth, the last chapter, they will end up joining us for this one, which is pretty useful. This is a very weird, interesting chapter, right? The gimmick of this, you have to defeat just the boss again, and there's just Sephiram, and he has a bunch of spirits with him. Now these spirits aren't too aggressive. Some of them will teleport towards you and attack you, but for the most part, a lot of them are not that aggressive. The only problem is they are very, very strong. Nasir is going to be very useful here because they are magic based, and Nasir is a white dragon, so that means he has an incredible resistance. Gareth, however, gets completely and utterly destroyed by the spirits. It's bad. Gareth gets killed by the spirits. And I just could not be asked to reset because I got a pretty good roll. So basically what you want to do is you want to clear out the spirits within the immediate area of Sephram so you can actually get to him. And Sephram is a very, very strong boss. However, I use my tried and true. My tried and true strategy in this one is my 3 royals and Shinon. I will basically not be using very many of my other units. I will have them basically move to the corner of the map to evade from Sephram. Because his attack, Crady Lad, is really powerful. It is really powerful. He also has the ability to rewarp, which is kind of scary. So, thankfully he doesn't do that though, which is nice. He's also standing on a pretty annoying tile, which gives him a lot of defense. But again, send your royals in, let them do the Lord's work, and defeat him. And we have finally made our way to Rebirth 5, Endgame Part 5, Battle against Ashara herself. Now you can have access to Leyrin, which is Sephram, if you are in the second playthrough or higher. This doesn't matter because this is our first playthrough on this file. So this being the final chapter and all, right? Ashara is a extremely strong boss. Ashara has the attack Judge. Judge has 13 different variants, each of which is defined by a unique set attacks and effects, ranging from inflicting either physical or magic damage to casting status effects on its opponents. Yay, wiki page. Thankfully, none of them will trigger crits, which is very important to know, so you don't have to worry about getting crit spammed. Its effect is it will attack. I will literally go over all of these effects. So standard close range. It counts as a strike and it's light magic. It's just single target close range. There's multiple physical, which attacks all enemies within range. So that's 1 to whatever the magic is plus 2, according to on here. That's how much the damage will do. And it's basically gonna attack pretty much everyone. You can check a range doing the old fashioned thing. There's single physical, multiple light, single light, multiple dark, single dark, which are unused, multiple silence, stun. Long story short, she's got a fuck ton of attacks, right? And so what you have to do in this chapter is there are 4 auroras hanging around outside of her. You have to defeat those first before you can even think about attacking Ashara. There's also cover tiles that you want to be able to make sure that your units are on. Some of the units, like my boy over here, Nasir, they're gonna be taking one for the team. It's kind of sad, but I actually lose a lot of units in this chapter. However, it does not matter because it is the final chapter. I had a lot of time figuring out how to actually defeat this boss, and it was very, very difficult. But I essentially went along with the strategy of just, unfortunately, letting a lot of units die. Nephany died, which is sad. Nasir died. Har died. Renning died. Gatry died. I finished this in the most poetic way that I can, and I think the only way that you can finish this is you have to make sure that your killing blow is with Ike. It does not matter what your accuracy is for the attack, as long as you are within killing range of Ashara. So if you have 26 damage and she has 24 HP, but you have a 2% chance to hit, you're still going to win. So it's going to trigger a cutscene, which Micaiah basically is like, hey, I'm gonna do some things to your Ragnar and make it kill. Yay. But that is basically it. We were able to make it through the game with only bonus experience and no extra skills, with a few sacrifices along the way. And to be honest, the MVP of this entire run, hands down, I thought it was going to be Har, 100%. I thought it was going to be the Royals, 100%. No, it's Shinon. While the Royals did a lot for us, like Tabarin took off a third of Ashara's HP in one attack. Naysala doing a lot as well, and same with Nyla. Shinon is the MVP, 100%. Shinon has been there since part 3, day 1, grinding with the squad. What am I saying? He's just been very, very helpful. But anyway, guys, enough of that bullshit. I'm just gonna finish it off there. Thank you guys so much for watching this. This is really fun to do. I really enjoyed this challenge. It made my brain think a lot about, oh crap, now I can't just bum rush all my units in. And of course, I'm the type that I'm not going to let all my units die. I mean, there are a couple here and there, like Edward, which I don't really care about. Units I didn't really care about was fine. Meg, let's just forget she existed. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name has been Meteor Kaiser, and I will see you all in the next one. But until then, as always, peace.